It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. My name's Nick. I'm from Nova Stream in Australia. This movie's incredible. I'm going through this like time of my life of melancholic sentimentality, and when I have a movie that hits me right in the emotional core, it hits me very well. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat about it today, John. I really do.
Happy to, and happy to hear your reaction. That's why you do these things.
Well, it's funny about sort of creating art that does feel personal because after watching the film, I watched interviews with you and Neil and to hear how you were both talking about the film. And he called it the most personal film he's ever made. And I'm curious to know what those conversations with you both were like about sort of bringing that authenticity from his story to the screen. I know you've worked together before, you know each other for a long time, but what were those stories like about bringing something so personal to him to the screen?
Well, it's interesting. We really don't talk a lot about things.
Right.
Uh, he came up with the idea for the script, and he wrote a pass with Derek, and he said to me, if you're interested, would you make it your own? And I read it, and I said I thought I could do something with it, and did. And where you saw the personal nature was obviously the history of where it came from. Him wondering what his life would be like without his wife,
Mm.
and his DNA is over in everything. So there was a kind of authorial quality that he brought to the film, and he was ready to do it 6 months before he started shooting. I mean, he was in this room with me with a bunch of the financiers, and he started talking about something, and he started getting emotional. I said, "Knock it off, Neil. Save it for the movie." And so he comes prepared. He's just a true pleasure to work with, and he really owned this. So it's his DNA, and I was able to find my way into it and then make it my own as he asked.
Mm. And watching you in those interviews and hearing you talk about it there, this like reverence you both have for each other and this bond you obviously have with each other, to me, it almost seems uncommon in an industry like this to have such close relationships with people that you get to work with. What is that the case, or am I just sort of seeing it from the
No, I think
outside?
I think there are people. Look, Marty's worked with De Niro so many times,
Yeah.
and Leonardo's worked with Marty. There are a bunch of them, and they're very Soderbergh with Clooney or Clooney and Pitt. There's a shorthand that develops,
Mm.
and I really enjoy Neil. I mean, first of all, he's younger than me. He's really strong, so I can punch him. I mean, I literally walk and punch him in the shoulder, and he goes, "Good, I'm up." You know what I mean? But he's a really good person. He's a
Yeah.
genuine person, and what he believes. And so I like that. And then again, the shorthand, I know how to direct. I've been doing this a while. I think I have gotten, very good performances over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And chosen actors well. And so I don't have to do an awful lot. And what I do, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, like for instance, when he was looking at the footage of his wedding, it's a very powerful moment, and I think the instinct of many actors is to sort of go to a deep and dark and melancholy kind of place.
Sure.
And I said to him, enjoy it. You're seeing your wife for the first time. So he was literally playing against it, and there was not a word of dialogue. And he took that direction, like, just, a gifted athlete, shifting his direction when someone's coming to tackle him or whatever, and that's typical of the way we work. Or sometimes I'll scratch my head or what's left of my hair, and he'll say, I got it. And then he really does get it, and he does what I was thinking, and I haven't even said it yet.
Yeah.
So Michael T. Williamson, I've worked with. He and I
He's
and
incredible.
Neil all started on Boomtown. You know, I've worked with Sarah Jones 3 or 4 times. So, it's not that unusual. I've worked with Pacino a couple times. I mean,
Mm.
it's like a repertory company in its own
Yeah.
way. And it's just so great, to try to make this magic. It's just so exciting.
I
You
think
know.
magic's the key word there. I love talking to filmmakers and when that word sort of comes up because it is at the end of the day. And then to elicit the feelings that we feel that come through the screen it is nothing short of it, I think.
Well, it's like going back to that scene, when Neil is enjoying it, as an audience, you understand there's almost a suspensive form
Mm.
that this is deeply moving and emotional to him, but he's having a good time. So it basically opens you up, to feeling and identifying with the character. And I always thought that the most exciting thing for me in making movies, and it happens all during the process, are these moments of discovery.
Mm,
When it's sort of unpredictable and then it happens, or you seize an opportunity, or you even give a direction that opens up a possibility. Uh, and uh, and when that happens, I refer to it as a present tense moment.
right.
What you're seeing right there in front of you is present tense, and you as an audience receiving it almost feel that immediacy
Yeah.
and really have suspended your disbelief so that if somebody tapped you on the head, you go, huh? Huh? You know,
Yeah.
you're in a movie theater. Oh yeah, yeah. Because it's that kind of dreamlike state where you're there in a way that is so difficult to describe, but something everybody recognizes instinctively.
It's a feeling. It's one of those things where you kind of like you don't have to explain it, but you can feel it, right? Like that's, and I think it's why I
Yeah.
love that's why I
Yeah.
love movies, John.
Well,
Um,
when I watch The Godfather, and I see some of those lines and I go, "Oh my God."
yeah, how is this possible? Like, how is this even possible to make? I'd love to ask about coming into the world of bull riding and rodeo because it's obviously so visceral in this film. But I think you also captured the community aspect of it as well so well in this film. I'm curious to know what it was like, sort of coming into this community. Were they sort of wanting you to get certain things right on screen? Were there things that they wanted you guys to get across about their community that you felt was important to tell?
I came in knowing nothing, which is
Yes,
typical.
sure.
And so they were the experts, and I was the pupil, and I listened and I learned, and I wrote the script, and then who was head of the professional bull riders, gave me notes. A lot of people gave me notes, and I made the changes. And then after a while, so I knew it,
Yeah.
and I am a professional student. I love that, uh, but it's one of these weird things where I've gone into so many different worlds and people have been so open with me, in terms of telling me their stories, opening themselves up, good and bad, and trusting me. And I think, I don't know that I would trust anybody. And at the same time, I'm actually trustworthy. Well, how do they know that? I guess they could look at the movies, but they don't do research. They don't call up 20 other people who I've done it with and said, "How was your experience with John?" They just do it on some sort of instinctive level. And wow, what a nice thing to have people's trust to do that. And then, hopefully you're able to work hard enough to realize it in a way that they look at it and go, yeah, you got it right.
I think you give off that demeanor. I mean, I get to talk to a lot of filmmakers and people in this industry and stuff, and you know when there's a conversation that isn't going well, and I think you give off this sort of demeanor that is very open and you're willing to answer questions in a really nice way.
Well, it's funny because I don't think about that when you say it. I think, oh, good, I hope so.
Yeah,
But
sure,
because
yeah.
I'm so busy wanting to learn what I have to learn to get it right. And I'm not like trying to seduce people into
No,
giving
no.
me their blessings. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get the information.
Yeah, well, it comes across, and I think it comes across in your films
Funny.
as well.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm curious to know sort of how the Western genre, sort of both classic and contemporary, sort of inspire the aesthetic of the film as well, because it is there very much so. I could imagine. So was that sort of something that was important from the start to sort of capture the iconography of the genre?
Well, it's funny because I'm a student of film, like
Yes.
you, and I love many of the westerns. But it was Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone that got me excited, and I liked a lot, particularly the stuff with the horses and the bunk guys and the way they
Yes.
treated each other. I just thought he's very talented. He doesn't get as much. I mean, he's enormously successful. He's wealthy as sin. He deserves all of it. Anyway, he inspired me, and uh, and so I really was interested in it. And like an idiot, first cowboy hat I put on backwards, and the guys were kind and told me and fixed it, and the crease was wrong. But after a while, with their tutelage and their nurturing, I got it where I got it,
Mm,
and I liked it, and I liked the world. I liked the family, the faith, the friendships, there's something very genuine about it.
mm,
And in the times which are so sort of turbulent and so filled with, you know, vitriol, I like a simpler world. And Because it's simple doesn't mean it's any less genuine, and because it's simple doesn't mean it's any less profound. Because a lot of times, all of us take ourselves so seriously
Hmm.
and lose sight of the fact that we're 1/10 trillionth of anything, in this
Right.
universe, and yet it's very dear and we should take advantage of it. It appealed to me and I wanted to get it right. And even the beginning of the movie, I came up with that on the last day of shooting. I said, "Hey, Neil, just put your hat down, tilt up and look at the camera."
Loved
And you're
it. Yeah.
looking at this big black bull. And I thought, well, is this just me being another pretentious director or is this going to work? And I didn't know.
Mm.
But when I added the sound of the bull and we worked on the light and everything and Neil's presence, I thought, yeah, man versus bull. There you go.
And I think just the whole allegory of the bull being life as well sort of is exacerbated by that moment. I kind of knew straight away what this movie, the thematics of it was going to be like. Yeah.
Well, that's what I hoped. And
Yeah.
when you're doing this stuff, you never really totally confident at all. So
No.
I love hearing that. You know what I mean? I've seen the movie a lot of
Sure.
audiences,
Yeah.
but it really, it's like you go, yeah, okay, your instincts aren't off all the time. I hope not.
No.
And that sense of the visual medium and sound and that experience, informing an audience as they're getting ready to look at a movie. I remember when I was doing Risky Business, Paul and
Mm.
I would talk about giving the audience permission to laugh. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very important, obviously, in a comedy. And here it's giving people an understanding that the movie is going to be deeper than just action.
Mm.
It's going to be about
Yes.
something, and it's not something you can necessarily define verbally,
Mm.
but it's relevant. You know.
And it worked. That opening shot, it definitely gives that feeling. I'm so close to my time, and I really just want to ask a super quick question because I noticed the clappers or the slates in the background there, and I would just love
Okay.
to know. I just as a quick question, do you remember the first one you ever took home, and what is maybe one of your most prized ones?
The first one was a movie I did as a student. There's a student film that I did with a young actor named Richard Gere. It was called Confusion Circle. It was a terrible movie, but Richard was great. It was very expressionistic. Uh, but I started keeping them because, in a funny way, you look at all these things.
Yeah,
There's so much work that went into them.
incredible. Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
Wow.
these are like little, you know, tokens of just months, years of worth of
Yeah.
work. Stories behind them are so endless. Uh, so to me, I really like having them there.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
I think if they ever burned or something like that, I'd be pretty depressed. But
I don't
it's
blame you.
not like the movies don't exist, but it's like
No, but
those
it's
are little
that
things that
special memento
only
to
I
you.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. John, that's my time. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope we get to
Yeah.
do it again for whatever else is coming up. So I appreciate your time, John. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.